Good evening, everyone. I'll call to order the City of Farmers Branch City Council meeting for the evening of November the 15th. Time now is 6:01, and we'll get started with the invocation and pledge of allegiance. If you all rise with me, please. We'll start with the invocation. Thank you for the opportunity to join together this evening and do the business of our city. The challenge of those that sit on the council, the challenge of those that serve our community as our staff and our residents and businesses. We look forward to positive outcomes and for better days ahead, and look for the common good for all parties involved. Amen. Now, if you'll follow me with both the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, if you'll join me with the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, I turned it off. Seeing we have no ceremonial items, I'll turn it over to Mr. Land, who has someone speaking on his behalf again this evening.
Carrying on a long-standing Farmers Branch tradition, we're going to turn the floor over to our Public Information Officer, Jeff Brady, who's going to deliver the items of community interest.
Thank you, Mr. Land.
And Mr. Brady, if you'll hold on one moment.
Oh, sure.
I would like to add that tonight is John Land's last city council meeting. So John will be moving on to other opportunities, enjoying his new grandchildren.
Yeah.
We're very happy for him, but I did want to take that moment to publicly thank you for your service.
James, did you clap?
Man, I'm sitting here clapping my hands.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Very good. Very good.
All right.
He said
Thank you,
yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Mr. Land, for your many years of service to our city. Now, I wanted to point out, since we only have one scheduled council meeting in November, this report will be slightly longer than usual, only because there is so much great stuff happening here in Farmers Branch. So just be patient, sit back, relax, get out your calendars. Do you enjoy classic Model Ts, Mustangs, and Mercedes? Well, take a step back in time to enjoy our classic car show featuring originals and restored to near original cars and trucks. Classic car show and pop-up coffee shop at the Historical Park this Saturday, November 19th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Councilman Richard Jackson is hosting a District 4 Town Hall at 6:30 on Thursday, November 17th at the Branch Connection. All District 4 residents are invited to attend for a discussion on current projects and future plans, including the city budget, redistricting, economic development, capital improvements, and city personnel changes. Also, as we all know, the holiday season is about generosity, and nothing demonstrates that more than giving to those in need. You have just a few more days to help the MetroCrest Services donation drive for the holiday season this year. They're collecting children's toys, food, and winter coats, plus financial donations. Drop-off boxes are at most city buildings. One is right out here in our lobby, or you can visit metrocrestservices.org for more details. Also, mark your calendars. Come out to our Hoya preview party this Saturday, November 19th from 6 to 8 p.m. at Gussie Field, Waterworth Park. Get a glimpse of this exciting new project with free gourmet food, gourmet grilled cheese, I believe. Is that right?
That's correct.
Grilled cheese is what I was told. And donuts. We're going to have donuts. We're going to have a lot of good food. Quesadillas. Okay, even better. See, that's even better. That's for the first 100 people. Plus, we'll have a live DJ and giveaways. You can see more at play@hoya.com. Skating Under the Stars returns to the Children's Health Star Center at noon next Friday, November 25th. Enjoy the holiday season at our outdoor rink under the blanket of Texas stars. Admission is $10 for ages 4 and up. but Farmers Branch residents can skate free on Sundays. It's open January 3rd, through January 3rd, weather permitting, but closed, of course, December 5th and January 1st. Reminder, don't pour that holiday grease down the drain. Farmers Branch has partnered with the other DFW cities in the 2022 Holiday Grease Roundup. Used cooking oil can be dropped off at our Citizens Collection Center at 1399 Valley View Lane any Thursday, Friday, or Saturday between 9 and 6 p.m., except on holidays. You can find the full schedule, and for more information, you can call 972-919-2613 for all your grease questions. Santa's on the move. On Saturday, December 3rd, he will get on board a city fire truck and tour Farmers Branch neighborhoods from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and then end at Squire Park from 11 a.m. to noon. You can find his full schedule at christmasinthebranch.com. Also, as if that weren't enough, also join us as we kick off the holiday season in a very big way with the lighting of our 50-foot Christmas tree in the Grove at Mustang Station. Also Saturday, December 3rd from 5 to 9 p.m. Enjoy visits with Santa, fireworks, stage entertainments, kids' activities, the holiday marketplace, and, you've never seen this before, a Christmas drone show. Yeah, that's right. We're going to have that. Also, explore rich holiday traditions from across the globe at the Historical Parks Holiday Exhibit, a celebration of Christmas traditions around the world. Guests tour 7 historical structures and learn how the holiday season is celebrated in other countries. Saturday, December 3rd and 17th at 2:30, Saturday, December 10th, 10 and 12 noon, and then on Fridays, December 9th and 16th, enjoy a lantern-led tour at 6:30. The city's comprehensive plan is the roadmap to establish the vision and goals for the future of our city. Join us Wednesday, December 7th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Community Recreation Center for a citywide workshop. You can come and go, stay for 10 minutes, or the entire event. Refreshments will be provided there as well. And lastly, get your tickets now for the classic romance Beauty and the Beast at Firehouse Theater next month. This tale as old as time centers around Belle, a young woman in a provincial town, and the Beast, who is really a young prince trapped under the spell of an enchantress. Plus a talking teapot and singing candles. December 1st to 18th, buy tickets at thefirehousetheater.com. And as always, you can sign up for City e-News at farmersbranchtx.gov. That concludes our report on community interest.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. We will then move to item G, which is to take any action necessary as a result of our closed executive session. We had a lengthy executive session today. We had the opportunity to discuss several points, and the first one, many of you know that we've been looking for a city manager. We acquired the services of a third-party vendor to run a nationwide search, and many of you in the audience participated in various roles that we had. We had those individuals in for an opportunity to visit with both the council and staff. Unfortunately, those individuals did not work out. And so we found ourselves in a very unique position, and we discussed amongst ourselves what the best options and the opportunities were, and we've decided to move forward. So one of the executive session items this evening is an motion to appoint Ben Williamson as city manager effective December 3rd of 2022 and approve an employment agreement contract with Mr. Williamson. So that is moving forward. Mr. Williamson?
Where is?
Second.
Oh, there he is.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Will we be voting by our devices?
Yes.
We will be voting by the devices. As Merritt catches up with his device. And there we have it. We look forward to a lot of opportunities with Ben. He's got an excellent plan that has been constructed. And I know many of us on the council have had opportunities to discuss with him that plan, and we look forward to implementing that plan across the city with the excellent city staff that we have, and more information will be coming out about that. So I look forward to all that entails. Did anyone else have any comments that they'd like to make at this time on that particular
I'd just like to briefly say congratulations, Ben. You've earned this in my judgment, and I've known you for a few years, and I know about your passion and your passion for the city and your incredible work ethic. And as my colleague Mr. Merritt indicated, we've deliberated long and hard over this, and we are very excited to move forward with you as a new city manager.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, I will then turn to the next motion, and we'll allow Pete Smith, City Attorney, to address that.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Tonight we had an executive session to discuss the 3 ethics complaints that were filed against Mayor Robert Dye. Under the Code of Ethics, the City Attorney was required to review those complaints and make a report to the City Council in executive session. Tonight, after discussion with the Council, I would recommend the following motion. Motion to invoke, and just for the benefit of the Council, under the process, the Council receives the initial report from the City Attorney, then they have to decide to reject any and all the complaints or to invoke the investigation process under the Ethics Code. And then the City Attorney, if they decide to invoke the investigation process, then the City Attorney goes out and contracts an independent investigating attorney who then investigates those complaints and then is required to come back and make a report to the Council 10 days after that appointment. So just so everybody understands the process. Having said that, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the Council, I recommend a motion as follows. Motion to invoke an investigation for the ethics complaints against Mayor Robert Dye, for the Sapinski email complaint, and for the Jackson email complaint. Reject the Open Meetings Act complaint. Grant an extension of 20 days for the independent investigating attorney from the date of such appointment to make a report to the Council, and to make the City Attorney's report available to the public.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. We have a motion.
Well, you don't have a motion.
Well, you don't have a motion. That is the motion being tabled. I will go ahead and approve that particular motion and look for a second, if you will.
No.
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you. You got the clarification, though. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by the usual sign.
And note for the record that Councilmember Jackson is disqualified from voting on this particular item, so it shouldn't be recorded as a positive vote.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. That moves us to citizen comments. I've been provided. I'm
You
sorry.
want to do the mayor appointment?
I thought that's at the end.
It is, but you can do it now if you want, or you want to wait.
Your call.
It's on the agenda. We'll hold it to the
Okay.
end.
Okay.
Sorry, as we get our dance correct. Citizens' comments. I've been provided a list or the forms. I'll read them in the order that they're presented here. Please note that some individuals have signed up for individual agenda items later in the evening. So the first ones that I'm going to deal with are in the citizen comment. The first one is Mr. David Silver.
I'm going to speak from over here because I like the citizens to
No, sir. No, sir.
I'm sorry, sir, you need to be at this particular podium. This is the practice that we have. And if this citizen comment is addressing
It's okay. It's okay.
the council.
It's okay. My name is David. I live in the Farmington Trailer Park of Farmers Branch, Texas. I want to talk on 3 points. COVID-19. I last spoke to this council and the citizens on October the 25th, 2022. A few days afterwards, both my wife and I came down with COVID-19. That said, I implore all who come into these quarters to cover your faces and help to keep the spreads down. I have no reason to believe that it was a malicious act by anyone, but others could have been affected. And based on that, I just want to bring that to the council's attention. It's a good practice, I think. Second thing, I also called out Mr. Leo Bonanno last time for poor leadership in our code enforcement department. And my wife and I met with Mr. Bonanno and Mr. McGraw last week for over an hour. We had a very good talk. All parties apologized for our miscommunications, and we're all on the same page. So with regard to code enforcement, I say to my Farmers Branch neighbors, all of you, Mr. Bonanno has heard us and is working diligently to help get this city cleaned up and back on track. I, like many of you, have not invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in my home to live next door to a junkyard-like individual. No disrespect to junkyard owners, but your yard need not be next to mine, especially since I live in a neighborhood that is designated as a residential neighborhood. Citizens, please keep your eyes and ears open, as these decisions that are coming forth will affect you. To the council, when these types of suggestions hit your desks, I highly recommend that you vote to stand with the homeowner and keep these elements out of the branch. If you feel different, please go live in an industrial area where these types of conditions are permitted. Lastly, privacy. Mr. Bonanno is working on making sure the Farmers Branch Texas Connect application gives us the privacy we all deserve. As for council meetings, just like tonight, that are posted on YouTube, if we are required to stand up here and provide our names and addresses to speak to the council, those identifiable points of information should be redacted on YouTube, as well as our faces. No one in Parma, Ohio, for instance, who happens to find our YouTube channel watching our meeting needs to know that Jane Smith of 111 Main Street in Farmers Branch believes in XYZ. Parma citizens should only know that that specific citizen believes in XYZ, and I asked Mr. Brady to help redact that kind of information from the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Second, Mr. James Lockridge.
City Council. So a couple of items tonight. One is...
Mr. Lockridge, if you'd be so courteous to name and address for the record,
We
please.
start my time over.
Oh. Mr. Brady, can we make that happen?
He did.
Yes.
11771 Mayoral, Farmers
Thank you.
Branch, Texas.
Thank you.
Couple items. First, everybody knows the stockpile on 635s as an issue. We're in deep contact with state representatives and senators trying to make something happen. I'm still asking City Council, guys, step up and do something. Help the citizens. It's a bad deal. Now the state that has started piling dirt on the other side of the stockpile on front of another neighborhood. So just step forward and help. No one from City Council has stepped up and done anything to help the citizens at this point. So I'm just asking for that. On another note, let's get to James's issue. 2009, Texas agricultural law. Right here, guys. Okay? Now, the state was nice enough to provide me with an attorney's name and number, tell me to call them. So I did. And on that deal, we looked at this law real close, which I have been missing for a very long time, the very last sentence. In the beginning, it says, no nuisance action may be brought against an agricultural operation that has lawfully been in operation for 1 year prior or more. Now, the very last sentence that we've all been missing, especially me, This subsection does not restrict or impede the authority of this state to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. The state to protect. Then it goes on to say, and the welfare or the authority of a municipality, which is city, to enforce state law. The one key word there is the municipality to enforce, and that's enforce a state law, not your own law. So we need to look at that, guys. We have an issue right there. Very clear, black and white. This could go one or two ways. This could go good, or this can go really, really ugly, really, really quick. Trust me, I don't have a problem going either way. Guarantee all of y'all that. But now that the lawyers looked at it and has gave me some advice, I got a lot to think about. And for Farmers Branch to keep harassing me about my right-of-ways and my crops, I got a problem. So let's work together, get it resolved. Now, on the third note tonight, I am sick and tired of watching people in this community rip jugglers out of people's throats. We're tearing down a city to benefit somebody else. I'm tired of it. We don't need to be ripping people apart. We don't need to be ripping jugglers out to get what we want, to get a new puppet show, to get a new regime. Everybody that's up here on council, you're elected by the people, not by one person. Not one person at all. You're by the district. I don't want to hear people say, I can't support you because
15
of
seconds,
somebody
Mr.
else.
Lockridge.
I just ask that everybody start being a little bit more nicer to each other up here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, as it's written, Victoria Harrison.
Good evening, Vicki Harrison, 3706 Ridge Oak Way.
If you mind to pull the mic down, thank you.
That's too loud. Okay. I think that's going to work. It's kind of...
We can still hear you. You're good.
Good. I think you probably can. If I need to talk loudly, I can do that, though, by the way. Thank you very much. So, go ahead and start.
Yes.
All right. Council members said in a previous council meeting, trust the process. Having attended the entire November 9th redistricting meeting in person, I want to convey some real concerns over what I observed. I request that each of you council members genuinely question the process for the following reasons. The construct of the commission was to have fair and equal representation from every voting district. 2 primary residents, 1 alternate. Throughout the 9 meetings, only 4 times did attendance provide for a fair and equal representation. That is less than 50%. Earlier this year, unfortunately, after the redistricting commission was assembled, the council implemented an ordinance requiring board and commission attendance that would have required repeated absences be replaced. There was a frequently shifting commission representation, leaving the bulk of the discussion and votes over 9 meetings to a small subset of the whole group. Should we trust the process in that situation? At the November 9th study session, various committee members did not demonstrate sufficient knowledge of the Farmers Branch streets and neighborhoods. When looking at the maps displayed, some were unable to distinguish parks from homes and couldn't identify major streets, neighborhoods, and creeks, a critical component in complying with our charter. In describing their preferences for maps, the charter was disregarded as evidenced in repeated remarks such as, I don't see why it's a big deal to split streets and neighborhoods. We still have barbecues. This is a blatant disregard for the charter rule that it's stated twice in the charter. So we should trust the process. Some could not justify their disfavor for a particular map. Comments made among commissioners were, I don't like the shape. The lines are cleaner in the other map. I don't like that zigzag. Referring to the creeks being used as boundaries. These are not metrics used or that are in the charter or law. Geometrically compact and contiguous are metrics, not zigzags. All 3 maps that are presented have geographic compactness and have contiguous character. The mandate is not to dilute or pack a district with minority citizens so that minorities unfairly lose or gain voter representation. Map 7 materially increases the Hispanic census voting age population from 62% to 75% in District 1. Why? To force District 1 to a 75% minority majority? Whatever. It's clearly packing. Can I finish?
Yeah, 15 seconds, ma'am. I'll be.
Or it is so by unnecessarily dividing other communities of interest and splitting neighborhoods. How can the commission deem this okay? How can we trust the process? The process is set forth in the original resolution creating the commission with no outside input or influence by reconvening. That's not true. In closing, there are multiple other reasons why this process should be questioned.
Thank you.
I don't have time. I wish that you would consider other issues. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for your comments. Next, I have Rick Johnson.
Council members, Rick Johnson, Harley Drive, Farmers Branch, Texas. Glad you're here tonight. You know, our mayor resigned. In doing so, he said that he hoped it would heal the city and many other things. Then, in his final words, he took a parting shot at council members, saying that they have handlers. My only question to the former mayor is, who was your handler and who did you handle? Because I think that's been obvious. We have had no votes on many things by the citizens that the citizens deserve to vote on. The park, the barn, or the center, whatever you want to call it this time. The point is that after the library got voted on, and they lost miserably, and then they tried to push it upon the people again, and lost again, finally ended up just to pass money to get something done because it was going to be an embarrassment to them. The point is we entrust our council when we all elect them to handle the needs of the city, not the wants. The wants of the city should be given to us, the voters, to decide. And we'll tell you whether we want what you're proposing or you don't. It's very easy to distinguish between the two. We weren't given that, so therefore, as council members, except for the two on the end that are the new council members, you failed us. And with that came disappointment, disengagement, and quite frankly, it shows on our city. This city is nothing like it was. Like I said before, you used to be able to drive into Farmers Branch because you knew where it started and where it ended. It's nice that you put up signs to let us know now because we can't tell the difference. And that's horrible. And as far as redistricting and stuff, I want to make the point that the gentleman who sat on there, who had the most tenure, was a council member, helped draw up the districts we have now. That withstood the court's scrutiny when the judge looked at it and said, okay, other than this, everything's fine. We have the right number of people on every income level in each one of these districts. We have the right colors also. And now this thing has been blown up. And by the way, that gentleman entered a map, and after it was discussed for 2 minutes, they turned their back on it. Instead of the one that's been there, done that, and it stood the test of time in court, you guys just dismissed him because he wasn't what you would consider part of your group. Most of the boards are stacked with your groups. Most of the things that come out are your groups. And you want to know what? They've gone from being advisory boards to now where they're sent out to sell the public, shame people. And we even have, thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you. I now have Grace Spees.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. Grace Spees, President, Farmers Branch Chamber of Commerce, 13612 Midway Road. I'm here to just extend a very personal invitation to you all, the council members, as well as our residents, to our year-end Christmas party and awards banquet. Our events committee on our board decided to combine these two events into one year-end celebration to both recognize and celebrate the businesses in our community and have a little bit of fun with the Christmas party and gift exchange. That will be our first Friday, December 2nd. All the details are online on our website. You can RSVP there as well. So we will send you all personal invitations as well, but wanted to put that on your radar and also invite the community. Thank you all.
Thank you, Grace. Last in the citizen comments is Mr. John Dodd.
John Dodd, I know this is a test, 12920 Mitchman Road, Farmers Branch, Texas. Thank you, dear, for reminding me. Let's be civil, Farmers Branch. This was an editorial on the 11th month, November, the 11th day, Veterans Day. Let's be civil, Farmers Branch. Veterans take an oath to defend America from all foreign threats and from all domestic threats to democracy. It appears the Dallas Morning News on Veterans Day was saying to Farmers Branch, grow up. Civil instability is a domestic threat to democracy, to Farmers Branch citizens, to elected officials, and to city employees. Farmers Branch was the city where President Reagan asked me to be an advisor on city issues. He appreciated our city staff. He had his staff, the presidential staff, communicate with Ruth Ann Parrish often. Governor Ann Richards asked me to chair a committee on the 1987 S&L crisis. A Dallas Morning News investigative reporter asked me to help solve the rapes and hangings at Dallas County Mental Health and Retardation Center. Farmers Branch was listed as one of the top 10 cities in the nation. One of the top economists in the world stated Farmers Branch was the city to come to because of the mayor and the city administration. Now, Farmers Branch needs to rebuild its reputation as a positive city council and mayor form of democracy for its citizens and city staff. The citizens need to come forward positively to vote for new leadership where it is needed on the city council. The council needs to vote for a city manager. Congratulations, city council. You did it. And he knows about Farmers Branch. As a team working together as citizens, city staff, and city government, once again, make Farmers Branch the best living place for families, individuals, children, and business to live, work, and play. Make my saying, Farmers Branch, the city in the park again.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd.
I've got one last statement. In my opinion, we the people of Farmers Branch are here to work with city staff, city government, as a team. Together we can make it happen to be civil. Let's start tonight, and we did with a new city manager. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That concludes all of the applications for the citizen comment form. As I mentioned, there are citizens signed up to speak to other agenda items later in the docket. This takes us now to item I, which is the consent agenda. We'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion.
Second.
And a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. We'll vote by the usual signs with our devices. Once again, I'll catch up. It is unanimous. Thank you all for that vote. This takes us to item J1, which is a public hearing. This public hearing is to consider the adopting of ordinance number 3761 relative to the Farmers Branch Youth Program standards of care in compliance with the Texas Human Resource Code, Chapter 42.041B14, and take appropriate action. We'll turn it over to staff. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. Jessica Alvarado, Recreation Manager. To continue our exempt status for daycare state licensing, it is time for our annual public hearing to consider ordinance number 3761. To receive exemption for our Summer Funshine and Holiday Craze programs, there must be a public hearing and adoption of standards of care. This exempt status has been in place since 1995. The background. During 1995 legislative session, state legislators enacted Senate Bill 212, exempting municipal youth recreation programs from child care licensing requirements. The Senate bill is reflected in the Texas Human Resource Code, Chapter 42.041B14, establishing requirements to exempt recreational programs offered by municipalities for elementary ages 5 to 13 children from state child care licensing requirements, providing and governing body of the municipality adopts standards of care ordinance after a public meeting. The public hearing and adoption of standards of care are an annual requirement to maintain exemption from the state licensing requirements. The participant ratios and the standards of care address overall health and safety issues such as leader to participant ratios and facility requirements. The city has numerous policies and procedures that reach beyond the requirements and are directed to critical areas such as age, behavioral expectations, and proof of residency. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Alvarado. Are there questions for her while she's at the podium related to the program? I think many of us, including myself, I know my family has taken advantage of this program over the years. I think we're getting numbers in the 325 to 350. I should know better, but it is something that has been well received. And this particular action, as you've already mentioned, is done on a yearly basis in order to adhere to that compliance. I had no one signed up to speak to this particular item. Therefore, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I move to close the public hearing and approve ordinance number 3761.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to first close the public hearing and then approve the particular ordinance. All those in favor vote by the usual sign, please. And it passes unanimously. Ms. Alvarado, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda are the regular items, which we have two. We will start with item K1, which is to receive the recommendation from the Redistricting Commission regarding the review of proposed redistricting maps 7, 8, and 9 using the checklist criteria and consider adopting ordinance number 3767, establishing the city council districts in accordance with section 7.10 of the city charter and take appropriate action. Welcome again to the podium, Mr. Bronson, and your support.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I have Bob Heath and Sherry McCall with me tonight. We've been working long and hard at this, and so the Redistricting Commission met on November 9th to discuss and review the proposed redistricting maps 8 and 9 using the redistricting map scorecard that was related to map 7. And after further review, which included scoring both maps 8 and 9, the Redistricting Commission reaffirmed their original recommendation of map 7 as presented on June 7th, 2022. In your package, you should have had a little scorecard, little graphics just like this. And I went back and watched all the meetings to tally the score, just to make sure that it was correct. So if you have any questions or any comments, we're here to answer.
Very good. Questions amongst the council?
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to withhold my comments and questions until after we've heard the citizens speak.
Fair.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Blackson or Mr. Heath and company? If not, Mr. Blackson will move to citizen comments here.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Citizen comments, I received 5. We'll go walk through those in the order that they are presented here. First, I have Brenda Broderick.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. My name is Brenda Broderick, 13531 Rawhide. This is not persuasive, but just observatory. When looking at map 8, most of the Austell area, except Phyllis and Primrose, is being taken from District 3 and given to District 4. All of the South Veronica area is taken from District 3 and given to District 4. And the larger Glenside area is also being given to District 4. So in my opinion, District 4 with map 8 is being given a great advantage because all of these neighborhoods are voters and they're just wonderful neighborhoods. So in my opinion, map 8 really is very advantageous to District 4. And map 9, all of the Austell area, including Primrose and Phyllis, is being taken from 3 and given to 4. However, District 3 gets to keep all of the South Veronica area, and the smaller Glenside area is being given to District 4. The reason I'm for map 9 is simply because District 3 gets to keep that Veronica area. Otherwise, it all goes to District 4. And I'm kind of partial to District 3 because that's what I am in, but won't be much longer. So map 8 is definitely favorable to District 4, and District 3 not only loses most of Austell area, but also the entire South Veronica area. Now map 7, District 3 loses all of the Austell area, all of the South Veronica area, plus all of the Holbrook, Harrisburg, Wilmington, Terrace, Selma, Maydell, southeast, west of Josie area. So with map 7, District 3 is losing a really big chunk of nice territory and really good voters. So map 7 does give Mercer to District 3, but a lot of those are apartment dwellers, and we don't know their voting record over there. And a lot of those households, they can't even vote. They're from India or somewhere, and they're not allowed to vote. So we don't have a very good voting record. We don't have the stability over there that we have in the central part of Farmers Branch. So map 7 is really taking, in my opinion, is taking a lot away from District 3. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up is Vicki Harrison.
Vicki Harrison, 3706 Ridge Oak Way. To continue along the lines of what I mentioned earlier, there are several things that are puzzling. First of all, the packing that's going to occur in that district is against the Voting Rights Act. So that is a viable reason not to pick map 7. Also, you're splitting the communities of interest. Also, you're not supposed to disrupt the neighborhood of a duly elected council member in a district And that's what it will do. So that's against the charter. And the issues of the the multifamily composition, that's not balanced any longer. They stated, the group, whatever, stated that they considered future growth in specific areas in making their recommendation. That's illegal. They're not allowed to do that. They don't have the licensing, the expertise to protect population. So there are a lot of reasons why MAP 7 has problems in terms of the charter and also the Voting Rights Act. And packing areas is against the law. And that's exactly what it does by increasing that Hispanic population. So it's concerning to me that there are all these problems with that, but MAPs 8 and 9 do not have those issues. And they were conceived from a council work session, not from a group who didn't meet regularly with the same people and with 50% participation. That's a concern. So, as per the city charter, you're not to disrupt communities' interests. MAP 8 divides communities of interest on 5 streets. MAP 9 only disrupts on 3 streets, making 9 preferable, I believe. So it has the minimum disruption of anything on the charter and on this sheet. Look at what you've charged the committee to do. And if you look at those metrics, MAP 7 is not the best proposal. And furthermore, I think that it's a mistake that there seems to have been this obsession about getting sued. We're going to get sued. We're going to get sued. Well, any of your decisions have a potential of being sued. You could be sued for the fact that people don't feel like they were adequately represented by the commission. And that's the recommendations that you're following. So I think that you need to take a step back and look at all of the metrics and the voting rights law before you pick District 7, because the numbers and the data don't bear that out.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Next up is Mike Harrison.
Mike Harrison, 3706 Ridge Oak Way, Farmers Branch. Good afternoon. Just a few comments on the redistricting. I appreciate all the time and effort and hours spent by all the individuals trying to comprise the maps that have been brought up and way down to at least 3. We were given a toolbox, that being the city charter, federal law, Voting Rights Act, and case law, to come up with options to present for selection by the City Council. All I ask is that we keep it fair, we follow the city charter, minimize the disruptions in neighborhoods, use natural barriers, major thoroughfares to reduce the divisions in the neighborhoods where people living on either side of the street or in opposite voting districts. There will be people that are not happy. We could give them their own district and they wouldn't be happy. And at the end of the day, the question of scope we have to deliver is that something that's fair, equitable to all the citizens and to the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next, I have Patricia Link.
Patricia Link, 3312 Chaparral. I had the opportunity to attend the Redistricting Commission meeting in addition to viewing other meetings online. At the last City Council meeting, there was considerable conversation between members regarding the selection of redistricting map as recommended by the Commission. Multiple council members said that they trusted the process and didn't question the recommendation. Council, you are here to make up your own minds. Your attention to this agenda item is critically important. I'm here to tell you that the process that you're relying upon is flawed. When one is designing a process, flawed inputs will guarantee a questionable outcome with a low confidence level. 1. Bronson Blackson was the lead. His role was to facilitate. He's an accomplished business leader with a passion for this topic, but he's not a trained facilitator. He migrated into influencing by saying things such as, "We're stuck on this neighborhood thing." Facilitation is not easy, and becoming an influencer is always a danger. 2, in his last meeting, after a recommendation had been made to council, commission members asked the base questions. All points should have been clarified long before a vote was ever taken and submitted to council. These are quoted comments. Why is it impactful to split up neighborhoods? I'm not sure of the difference between maps. What comprises a geographic boundary? What does fragmenting or packing minority communities mean? In map 7, District 1 has a Hispanic voting age percentage of 75. One member questioned, which is more important, one district that has a high percentage or two that have a more balanced percentage but still have higher in other districts? No one ever answered her question. This is a basic point that should have been clarified. My question is, when you have a district that has a significantly higher percentage than the others, does that mean packing? Where is the line? 4, at the last meeting, there was one member who said that the commission put forth a specific recommendation. She didn't want to have her name on it. She clearly doesn't understand the meaning of the word consensus and should have been excused at that point. No person should be able to hold a commission hostage. Understanding consensus would have been a very first meeting agenda item. And 5, the attendance was appalling. Poor attendance should have been addressed early in the process because it limits a general understanding by all members. My recommendation is that council have a session where each of you looks at maps 7, 8, and 9 and have the opportunity to ask questions for understanding. You might even come up with a new map, 10. This agenda item is too important to rely upon a recommendation that comes from a flawed process. Thank you.
Thank you. Last speaking on this from a citizen perspective, signed up is Rick Johnson.
Rick Johnson, Harley Drive, Farmers Branch, Texas. This is a disaster. It's nothing more than a disaster. You have chopped this city up with those maps unbelievably. If anything constitutes gerrymandering, it's this. The other thing is,
we can hold the applause.
The other thing is why are we not going back in? Why are we not asking that districts be done with? You know, the majority now is the Latino Hispanic Committee, residents. And the issue we have with that is this is where all of our problems coming from. We're so worried about being sued at the last minute that this is what these decisions are being made on. It's not the fact that you're creating a severely poor district when you're doing this and then turning around and creating a severely wealthy district, which is completely wrong, and that's not grounds for being sued. I mean, do you have a crystal ball? Do you know what you're going to get sued for and what you're not? I'll tell you what, everybody stood up here and basically told anybody, you can sue the city. We're giving you everything in the world to do that. We're tearing up neighborhoods, we're destroying districts, we're doing whatever. And it's just gerrymandering. It's no mistake that where the mayor's building his house, well, you know, the neighborhood that favors him is following him right along. And how does this happen? Well, you know, it was brought on by the person who headed the committee, which, oh, by the way, the mayor married. The problem that we have. Go ahead.
Mr. Johnson, we will stop with those comments.
Is anything I said false? No, it's not. And this goes into my point exactly. This is nothing more than gerrymandering. It has nothing to do with creating fair districts. And you know what? You need to step back, you need to blow this process up, and you need to start over with people who are going to do the right thing, because this hasn't happened here. And it's your responsibility. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Blackson, would you like to address any of the, or add anything to the discussion? Let's put it that way.
I'll entertain any questions from the council members at this point.
Thank you. Mr. Jackson, you deferred. Care to start?
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Chairman Blackson. Would you mind pulling up the scorecard for everyone to see? Scorecard.
Is it on the podium?
It's part of the packet, if that helps. While he's doing that, I'll just give you a spoiler alert. I'm not about to ask the commission to reconvene. So just let you know that ahead of time.
I'm just going to have to pull it up. It's on the packet. I'll have to pull it off the website to get the packet pulled up.
Okay,
So just give me just
that's
a
fine.
moment to do
Is this better? Yes. Very good.
It was item 12. Mark, you had the correct.
Didn't. There we go. Okay, here we go.
But it didn't.
There it is. Yep, that was it. Scorecard results. There we go. Thank you.
Perfect.
So I have a number of questions to go through, Mr. Blackson. The one thing that I wanted to do up front is I wanted to point out that if we look at, well, first of all, this is the criteria that aligns with our charter and complies with the Voting Rights Act and is shaped to avoid legal issues from the outcomes of our redistricting process, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay, and this was a scorecard that you put together and used throughout the commission's process, and this is really the centerpiece of our last meeting where we asked the commission to get back together and use the same process on maps 8 and 9 that you'd used on maps 1 through 7, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's why I wanted to start here. If we look at criteria 3 through 11, and you can quickly scan the results between map 7, map 8, and map 9, our commission, even though through its various attendance patterns, all of the maps scored equally. And by equally, I mean they were all voted unanimously the same. So as an example, criteria number 9 is the map narrowly tailored to avoid racial gerrymandering. Map 7, unanimously the commission said yes. Map 8, unanimously the commission said yes. Map 9, the commission unanimously said yes. That same behavior occurs on all of the criteria 3 through 11. So we can take the racial gerrymandering and the fragmenting a minority community and packing off the table because all of those criteria were unanimously voted on all the maps in the same way. So I want to focus on the two criteria in which there are differences. Start with criteria number 1, easily identifiable boundaries. I'd like for you or Mr. Heath to tell us what easily identifiable boundaries means in this context.
Okay, I'll let Bob give the definition, the legal definition.
Basically, easily identifiable boundaries would be what it says, something that people can look at and tell what the boundary is. And typically, that's going to be a street, a river, a creek, or some physical indication that gives you a boundary line.
Right.
You know, so not, for example, sometimes in cases you see people want to run a boundary down a property line. Well, you can't identify that on the ground. A street you can. And that ends up meaning sometimes that people on one side of the street are on one district, other side are in the other, but that's the boundary. And typically those are going to also need to be the boundaries that the census uses, because that's where you get the population data.
Mr. Heath, would you be so kind to state your address for the record, please,
All right.
sir? Thank you.
My name is Bob Heath. I reside in Austin, Texas, 7512 Stonecliff Circle.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Heath, for that explanation. So I understand that very well. I would suggest easily identifiable boundaries, pretty self-explanatory. But as you look at the criteria number 1, the commission last week said that map 4 of the commission said that map 9 did not have easily identifiable boundaries. And I question if there was a common understanding of what that term means. Because it's clearly in map 9 that the boundaries are easily identifiable. I would suggest far more identifiable than map 7, because map 9 uses creeks, major streets, as the boundaries between districts. One of the comments that I heard among the commission on November 9th was, I don't like the southern boundary of District 5. There was no other explanation given. Just, I don't like it. And I think that the words used were something around squiggly or jagged or zigzaggy. I don't recall exactly. But I was confused at that vote because the boundary along the bottom part of District 5 in map 9 is the same boundary in map 8 and in map 7, where map 7 got a unanimous vote that it has easily identifiable geographic boundaries. Would you confirm that that boundary along the creek that runs behind Brookhaven College and divides the Valley View Park Estates from Brookhaven, that's the same boundary across map 7, 8, and 9?
That is correct. The same boundary that's used for the District 5 to 4 separation is the same between the 3 maps. That's correct.
So I'm confused. How did map 7's southern boundaries get so much more favor than map 9's when they're the same?
Is that a question or is that just a?
Just a statement.
Okay.
We can't change it now. The boundary is the boundary, and the comments made during November 9th session are on record. My next point is with criteria number 2, maintaining communities of interest. and neighborhoods in a single district. The charter tells us in 2 places to only split or divide neighborhoods if we have to. I'm paraphrasing, but it says avoid splitting neighborhoods and dividing communities of interest, to be exact. Map 7 got a unanimous vote again, while maps 8 and 9 got a 9-to-1 vote. I'd say map 8 and 9 fared fairly well in that vote. But at the end of the day, the commission still decided to side with map 7. And there was a concerning conversation that I heard during November 9's meeting that one of our residents has pointed out, that criteria didn't matter. Why did it matter? That was the comment I heard. Why is it a big deal that we're splitting a neighborhood or dividing a community of interest? You pointed out to the commission that it's a big deal because it's listed twice in our charter. Twice. As has been said tonight again, there were some commissioners that weren't familiar with the geography of Farmers Branch. And I saw that in the video. They didn't know what Farmers Branch Park was along Dennis Lane. They couldn't tell it different from homes. And so in using map 7, in favoring map 7, they were okay with taking 67 homes out of that particular neighborhood and putting it into District 1. And they ignored the fact that map 9 actually created a more logical boundary along Dennis Lane, where a lot of Dennis Lane is park, church, senior center, schools. And between Vivian Field and Josie Lane, many of those homes along Dennis Lane, those are the sides of homes. So there's a pretty big impact when you split some of these streets and divide some of these neighborhoods to homes. And I would like, just for the benefit of everyone, to see the difference that it makes when you split homes and neighborhoods and the impact of each map on that specific criteria in our charter. So I'd ask Stacy to put that graph back up on the screen. Because one thing that I didn't see, and I know you guys talked about certain neighborhoods and how many people are in each neighborhood, but one thing I didn't see was somebody account for how many homes are being affected. In fact, we had a resident twice during citizens' comment say, has anyone determined how many homes are affected? Well, what I did here is I went in and I just simply counted the homes where their front doors are facing each other. So if you're at a T end of an intersection, I didn't count you. If you've got a house across the street that's facing the side of your house in your backyard, I didn't count you. Today, we have 151 homes where there are divisions between they and their front door facing neighbors across the street. 7 streets in today's map results in 151 Farmers Branch residents who live facing each other that are in opposing or different districts, I'll say. If we look at map 7, it reduces the number of streets that are split, but look at the number of homes that are facing each other. 282. These are split streets and divided communities of interest. Map 8, one less street at 5, and 146 homes facing each other across the street. Map 9 is 95 homes. So I'm still scratching my head as to why there was a unanimous vote for map 7 by the commission on that particular criteria, but there wasn't for maps 8 or 9 when they actually, the data shows, they're far less divided and split. I don't understand that. We have a special election coming up. When this process began, we had an election that was just starting. A good bit of your work was done before you knew who all was running or where they lived or what the outcome would be. But now we have a special election again. And what is the date that a decision on a redistricting map absolutely must be made? I think we know a date now. Is that right?
I don't have the specific date in my mind, but I can tell you how to figure it. And, you're going to take the date of the election, and you need to move back. And here I'm talking about the upcoming general election, which is going to be in May.
Okay.
To use the boundaries, number one, you have to adopt it 3 months before. And that's in the election code. Now, I think it's 276.006, I believe, of the election code, but that may be wrong. But the other thing is that the election has to be called 78 days before election day. And you can file 30 days before that. So if you want to have the map finished in time for the regular filing period to begin, that's 108 days before the election. Now, that ends up, I'm pretty sure, in mid-January, but I'd have to count 108 days, and I don't have my calendar right here to say that, but that's how you figure it. And so, but that's the, you know, if you take 108 days before the election, and when you do that, of course, you're getting that 3-month period, you're satisfying that as well.
Right. It's not tonight, though.
No, but it's coming up.
Sure.
So
What is the date of the May election? Do we know that yet?
May 9th, I believe.
The 9th.
May 6th.
May 5th?
May 6th.
May 6th.
Go ahead.
And so 108 days prior to May 6th. I'm going to try to do this quickly, but
108.
108.
108.
Right. 108.
30, 31, 28.
While you're doing that math, I do want to just point out, and Bronson, you may want to bring it up, there is a difference in the southern border of District 5 between the 3 maps. So not once you passed Marsh, but between Webb Chapel and Marsh, there's a difference in all 3.
If what I said was the creek that runs behind Brookhaven College and divides Brookhaven Country Club from Valley View Park Estates is the same in all 3 maps, and that is what the commission members were referring to.
I thought you said that the commission members were referring to the southern border.
The southern border of District 5 is right there. This is not a discussion. I've got the microphone right now.
Oh, stop. Let's stop.
So-
Stop.
I'm clarifying, if you look at maps 7, 8, and 9 between Valley View Park Estates and Brookhaven Country Club, Brookhaven College, it is the exact same boundary. It's a creek. It hasn't changed. That's what I was focused on. 108 days prior to May.
January 19th.
January 19th?
January 19th.
Okay. So January 19th is our drop dead date. We really don't want to wait until then, I'm sure. But that is our drop dead date.
Yes.
Okay.
Just for clarification, I think January 18th is actually the filing day, so we probably need to be looking at that as the day.
Yeah.
I would
day
agree,
earlier.
yeah.
Yeah,
That makes
technically,
sense.
you could even not have the whole 30-day filing period, but you want to give people the 30 days, I think.
Thank you.
You have any further questions?
I do. Yeah, I want to finish up here. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you.
We have a special election going on right now, so we have candidates that are filing, and that filing deadline for the special election is November 21. Is that correct?
That is correct, being told from the city secretary.
Is there a compelling reason why we would not be consistent with the prior process of considering where candidates live, or waiting until the filing date to know where candidates live that are wanting to run for District 3, so that we can consider that in our final decision, since we have time, right? We have until January the 18th. Why wouldn't we be consistent in that practice from the first time and be consistent with that practice today? Wait until the filing deadline for the special election has closed, and then identify where all of the candidates live to ensure that the map that we decide on does not displace any of those candidates.
There's no reason why the council can't do that. The council started, Resolution 2022-008 appointed all of us. And so that process started, and our process started before the filing part of the current election, but we did allow a meeting to occur after. We had basically wrapped up, but we did allow a meeting to occur after to make sure that there were no other issues. I was very adamant about making sure that everyone could look at the map and see where the candidates were going to be, or see how it all kind of shook out and see who was elected. And
right.
And some changes were made. A very, very small change was made, but a change was made, and that's how we got to map 7.
Right, understood. There was no decision. We weren't sitting on a decision point, and the clock wasn't ticking as fast as it is today. Back then, when that election, was called.
We had a lot more time.
Yeah, a lot of time.
Yeah.
Right, a lot of time. So I would suggest that we need to make that consideration in this process. Again, because we have time. We have a meeting scheduled for December 13, and this doesn't really have to be done until January the 18th. And I realize that this is as bad as tree stumps who'd like to get this box checked. But we need to make sure that we check the right box. This is critical. Critical. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Other comments amongst the commissioners? The council members, I'm sorry. Old habit. Old habit, yes.
So I too reviewed the committee, and there was a question that was asked by a commissioner. Hold on. Hello, friend. There was a question that was asked by a commissioner regarding communities of interest and what that actually meant. I believe the committee member mentioned that they've heard a lot of concerns from residents regarding different neighborhoods being split up. And they said, well, while I understand that, it doesn't matter, and I want to understand what communities of interest means. And so for just the benefit of everybody, I wanted to make sure I really sat down and tried to think of what a community of interest means, because I think it's a term that has been talked about quite frequently that we've not actually sat down to define. And so just for the benefit, a community of interest is a geographical area of people who share a common bond through shared interests or passions. Participation in a community of interest can be compelling, entertaining, and can create a community where people return frequently and remain for extended periods, which I think is one of the goals we try to achieve here in Farmers Branch. Its members take part in a community to exchange information, to obtain answers to questions or problems, to improve their understanding of a subject, to share common passions, or work towards improving their immediate community. Part of what contributes to answers to questions, answers to problems, or improvement of understanding of a subject matter is local representation, i.e. a council member. And I think that demonstrates that a council member's role in a community of interest is vital. And while I understand that we've talked a lot about barbecues, and we'll still be able to continue to have those, I think barbecues are, and other social functions are a byproduct of a community of interest. Mercer Crossing is a new neighborhood. It's on its own separate island on the west side from what we consider the main part of Farmers Branch. It consists of a new demographic of residents and has issues that are very unique to that community. And so I appreciate the committee, but I've got residents in the Brickyard, I have residents in the Towers, in the Lux, that's 800 residents in each at least. Then I have residents in the Windermere community, the Verwood community, the Amesbury community, Ashington, Coventry, and Brighton, all communities that I will lose. I just believe that given the uniqueness of Mercer Crossing, I think they deserve contiguous representation. And whatever the decision ends up being today, you know, I just want to make sure that the residents in Mercer Crossing know that I have advocated and fought for you to maintain that community of interest. And whatever the council's decision is, whether it be today or whether it be January 18th or whenever, you know, we all have to be okay with what the majority decides. So, but I appreciate the committee's time, and I just wanted to make sure that I expressed those comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? So, seeing none at the moment, I understand how difficult this particular process is, and we put forth our trust in Mr. Heath and his firm to come in and provide us that expertise over 40 years, as we've discussed in prior sessions. This is not easy. There are going to be what are perceived to be winners and losers, but we're all residents of the city, and we are all going to have representation across this dais at some point, wherever you live and wherever you land in a particular district. We put together a committee represented by citizens from our city, excuse me, that were selected by each of the council members at that particular time. I think that's the way we would want that to work. We want citizen input. We want them to be educated in the processes. We've talked before about the delicacies, if you will, and the intricacies of census blocks and the complexity of street overlays. I've also done historical looks at what we've done in our state representative districts. Those have changed. Many of you now have new representation. We also have new representation at the state Senate level as well in Farmers Branch. These things change on a periodic basis. This is part of how, in my opinion, David Merritt's opinion, how democracy works and how we have representation. You're able to engage through the democratic process of an election to select individuals that will represent you and your needs. I want to thank Bronson for leading this commission through this particular time. It's not been easy. I think that it's been eye-opening for all of those that have participated in it and have watched it. Hindsight is 20/20. We can always do better jobs when we look back at things. I believe that we are at a point now where we have asked the commission to look at the 3 maps. And since June, map 7 has risen to the top in every presentation that we've had from the commission. So, since I still have, unless there's somebody else that wants to talk, since I still have power to vote from this Mayor Pro Tem spot, I will make a motion at this particular time, and I will make sure I get it right. Now, the groans are going to happen. I move to adopt ordinance number 3767, establishing city council districts utilizing map number 7.
I second.
It's a process. Thank you for reaching out, but this is the process that we have. So we have a motion and a second. We won't take any comments from, we've already had that particular opportunity. I'll ask if there's any other further questions amongst my council members. Seeing none. We will now vote on it in the usual manner.
This is yours, isn't it? Yeah, it's all right. Okay.
It passes 3-2. We will now move to item number K2. To consider consider appointing a qualified candidate to fill the position of mayor for the unexpired term ending in May of 2023, or consider adopting ordinance number 3778, calling a special election for January 21st, 2023, for the purposes of electing a person to fill the vacancy of an unexpired term for mayor and take appropriate action. Again, this was a discussion item that we had in executive session, and so we have talked about this. If there's discussion amongst the council, now would be the time to have it. No discussion.
We had discussion upstairs, so should we have, I don't have any further comments or questions down here.
Call for a motion then.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Bill Glancy as mayor to become effective with the council meeting on December 13th of 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve and appoint, former Mayor Bill Glancy. We'll vote by the usual sign. I will say that both, there have been conversations with Mr. Glancy. He is willing to participate in this particular role, and he will carry us forward if so approved. All those in favor, please vote by the usual sign. It carries unanimously. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our regular agenda for this evening. I will close the City Council meeting at 7:30 p.m. Thank you very much for your attendance.